Welcome to the last video of the ServSafe Manager playlist. This is going to be chapters 8, 9, and 10 all balled up into one video with the core information available. Now, this first thing that I'm going to cover is one of the reasons why ServSafe Manager is a little bit harder than the regular ServSafe playlist. Because the first thing I'm going to talk about is something called management systems. These are food safety management systems that you should be able to put in place as a manager, and when you are an employee and you do the regular ServSafe, you don't really need to talk about establishing, health and safety training programs and stuff like that. Okay, so what are the different management systems that you can put in place? These are personal hygiene programs, food and safety programs, supplier selection and specification programs, QA programs, that's quality control and assurance programs, cleaning and sanitation programs, standard operating procedures, facility design and equipment maintenance programs, and pest control programs. So earlier on in the playlist, I covered the 5 major things that are basically risk factors for foodborne illness. In case you haven't watched that video yet or you need a refresher, they are purchasing food from unsafe vendors, failing to cook the food correctly, holding food at incorrect temperatures, using contaminated equipment, and practicing poor personal hygiene. I actually talked about what to do when you have somebody that is working with you or you are a manager and having to try to explain personal hygiene to them. There are some people that aren't as aware, we'll say, of their own personal hygiene, and it's something that needs to be coached and trained. So I did touch on that a little bit. So when you're taking the test, if you see anything that talks about active managerial control, they're more than likely talking about a HACCP plan. HACCP stands for Hazard Analysis Critical Control Points. It's very important to understand exactly what that is. There will be more than likely, now the questions are kind of randomized, so some people may not get this question at all, but usually there might be 1 or 2 that have to do with hazard analysis critical control points, whether that is just defining what it is or talking about what the actual words are, because they might say, what does HACCP stand for, and give you like 4 options and they all seem like they could be the right option. That's how you get one of those wrong. An example of critical control points would be things like the critical points in which foodborne illness can occur. So this might mean that the restaurant that you're in has a key drop, or you have allowed for a key drop. I'm generally against key drops. There are situations where it's unavoidable and you have to do it, but I like to be able to look at the food when it's delivered because of this critical control point. Food delivery by itself, you could temp some of the food out and find out that it was on the truck way too long and it's above temp. You're allowed to reject it for any reason. If it's above temp, reject it. That's something to check for. If you see products and they are frozen, they look like they have like kind of ice forming around the outside, it usually means they were thawed out and then refrozen. You reject it. Check out the lettuce, check out things. It's going to piss the driver off, but you're the one that paid hundreds of dollars, if not thousands and thousands of dollars for food. I mean, my deliveries are usually anywhere from, $680 to around like $1,500. Actually, let me know in the comments if you want to see a video about ordering, because I've been thinking about doing one, but I want to know if you want to see something like that, if that will provide value to you. The cool thing is that all of this stuff has been around since even before I was born. The FDA already has interventions and programs designed to help you comply with these laws, or with not just with the laws, but just to make sure that you are providing a safe place for people to come and eat your food. So let's talk about a few of those. One is demonstration of knowledge. One way to demonstrate your knowledge is to get certified as a food safety person, like maybe watch a bunch of these videos and then go take a test showing that you are ServSafe Manager certified, people can trust you. Basically, you're showing that you know how to do this. You can keep food safe. It's very easy for you. You have the knowledge base. You can always come back to these videos after you've taken your tests and check them out. Another one is staff health controls. One example is, I talk about meetings all the time, bring up in the meeting that you really want to encourage staff to report health and safety issues. Make sure they know that it is a safe place to say that I'm sick, I can't come into work. You don't want to get the other people sick. It's going to cost you a lot more money if a bunch of your people end up going home because they're sick, and it can also cost you a lawsuit if they start sneezing all over the salad before they send it out, and then you get the whole restaurant sick. Start an epidemic. Controlling hands is a vehicle of contamination. You want to prevent bare hand contact with food as much as possible. Now, technically, yes. If you are marinating chicken, you don't need to wear gloves. You can do it without gloves, very easily. It's actually not against health code to do that. Raw meat, chicken, things that are going to be cooked, balling up hamburgers, all of that stuff, you don't need to wear gloves for that. Do it anyway. Just do it anyway. I know that a case of gloves is going to cost you a little bit of money. Just do it anyway. Marinate the chicken, always have gloves on. Just make it a standard policy. If you are touching food, you have gloves. If you are changing tasks, you have gloves. If you are leaving the area and coming back, you change your gloves when you come back. 100% of the time, always just glove, 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 glove. People will not necessarily have a big problem with it. If they do have a problem with it, it's maybe because they came from a place that the manager was really cheap, didn't want to buy gloves a lot. Time and temperature parameters for controlling pathogens. You want to limit as much as possible the amount of time that food spends in the temperature danger zone. One easy way to do this is you can keep a clipboard with a chart and have them check food about every 2 hours. Like if you're going to keep anything, if you have a steam well that you keep gravy in, for example, check the temperature every 2 hours. Make sure nothing happened to it. Make sure the breaker didn't blow, for example, and the gravy's cold, little things like that. Check the temps of the freezers and fridges and the reach-ins, like every shift, every 4 hours or so. And don't just look at the little dial, look on the inside. Have a thermometer on the inside of the fridge and look at that and use that for your temp guides. Make sure you're monitoring the temp. We have caught freezer drawers going out because we were checking the temperature really regularly and not just assuming everything was going to be fine. People have come in and take the temperature of the walk-in and they noticed it dropped 5 degrees and found out that the compressor was going out. And we wouldn't have caught that if we weren't regularly checking the temperature. Also, consumer advisories. Like those things I talked about in an earlier video. Serving raw or undercooked food may cause blah, 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 blah. That is it for Chapter 8. Let's move on to Chapter 9. Now you can see why I combined all the chapters. This is really short. Also, as always, I'm going to have some study questions in the description. These are not going to have answers. These are not going to be multiple choice. They just are designed to give you an idea of the kinds of questions that will be asked during the ServSafe test. So you can look at those, read those, answer them as you want, Google them, research them. This will help you get a better score. So Chapter 9 is going to be safe facilities and pest management. Fun. One of the first things that you're going to see regularly, you may notice this at your restaurant, if you're new or haven't been doing this for very long, that there seems to always be a gap everywhere. In the walk-in, in the dry storage, everywhere seems to be up above the ground a certain height. It's actually important. It's a 6-inch height. It's designed to keep pests and stuff. Like mice can kind of climb and jump and stuff like that, but hopefully you just don't have a mice problem. 6 inches is required. When you are selecting equipment, you want to be NSF certified. When you are looking at the walls, they should be easy to clean. They should be smooth. You should be able to take a power washer in and spray all the walls. Like there shouldn't be any worry of rot or any of that kind of stuff. Obviously, one thing that you can do is put equipment up on casters that will help you get around them, move them out of the way as you need to clean. Essentially, all the equipment, all the walls, all the floors, everything, you want to be able to easily clean it. One of the roadblocks a lot of places will run into, and the reason why certain things don't ever get done, for example, cleaning behind and underneath the flat top, might be because there's no casters. It's not on any wheels. And it's really, really hard to get up underneath there. Some places, you just got to kind of shove the mop in and hope that you get everything. So if you have casters, it makes it really easy. It makes it really easy to tear the line down and to clean everything. If you don't have them and you're not in a position where you can buy them, I'm sorry, it sucks. But once you do have those, especially when you even have them on your shelving units and stuff, you can keep the place looking like new for years and years. It's fantastic. Dishwashers should be installed so they're easy to reach and accessible, easy to use, etc. Make sure that you're using detergents and sanitizers that are approved by regulatory authorities. So I talked about shelving, walk-ins and stuff being 6 inches. That also counts with floor-mounted equipment. Tabletop equipment, though, can be 4 inches. So floor-mounted, at least 6. Tabletop-mounted, for. When you are getting a dishwasher or you have a dishwasher, you need to make sure that it does three things. That is, measure and monitor the water temp, water pressure, as well as the chemical concentration, like the cleaning and sanitizing. Make sure, obviously, you're cleaning the dishwasher, deliming it, and that kind of stuff. One thing that a lot of places get dinged on are hand washing stations. People think they have hand washing stations in the correct place, but they actually don't. The three main areas that you want a hand washing station are the food prep areas, service areas, and dishwashing areas. Another common mistake, another thing that people get dinged on by the health inspector, is people get in the habit of rinsing certain items in the hand sink. You cannot do that. It has to only be used for hand washing. So I know it's tempting to go, maybe the hand sink is really nearby and you just have one pan that's got like some jus in it or something, and you just want to like dump it out, rinse it out really quick. Just go to the dishwashing station, go to the triple sink, just do it over there really quick. Don't use the prep sink either. The 2-compartment prep sink that's designed for food, don't do dishes in that. You're going to get busted for that too. Hand washing stations have to have 5 elements. They want to see hot and cold running water, some kind of soap, whether it's liquid powder or bar or whatever, a way to dry your hands, whether that's a blower or paper towels, some type of garbage container for the way you dry your hands usually, signage saying that employees must wash hands before they go to work, blah, 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 blah. Bonus points if you have a nail brush. Those are awesome. So I'm going to get a little bit into plumbing. It's one of the best parts of being a cook is understanding things like air gaps and potable water. It's really the only reason I got into cooking. 4 sources. First one is approved public water mains, private water sources that are regularly tested, closed potable water containers, water transport vehicles. This never showed up on my test. Not saying it won't show up on yours, but I'm covering everything. I just want to make sure all of my bases are clear. I'm going to do my best to not lead you astray. One of the things that you want to avoid in the restaurant, and you may have noticed this, and one of the reasons why you need an air cap is something called cross-connection. A cross-connection is a physical link between dirty water and safe water. The reason why is there is a risk for something called backflow, where the dirty water might siphon up into the clean water. A lot of you have probably seen something that looks like this or like this. This is backflow prevention, and these are actually required, especially in restaurant settings. There's some cities that actually have it as an ordinance, even on residential houses. Isn't that awesome? We learned about backflow prevention. When you're looking around at your restaurant, when you're looking around at the sinks and looking underneath, you might notice that there always seems to be a commonality with the triple sink where the pipe drains out into something that looks like a funnel. Like where you actually dump the water, the pipe that dumps the water kind of just cuts off, and then there's it looks like this. You might notice that, or you might notice a pipe directly over some type of grate. That's because it is absolutely required. If that sink is directly connected into that, there is a chance of backflow of, some kind of, maybe there's a flood and the sewage comes up. And now it comes up into the bottom of the sink because there's no air gap. Maybe the sink gets clogged, and it gets clogged later on down in the pipeline, and all of that old stuff starts making its way back up as you start to fill the sink up. That's why you need one of these things. Health inspectors will look for this. Now, unfortunately, if you are a manager or supervisor, you might be coming into a place that it's not like you designed the kitchen. So if you do notice this is something you're going to have to get somebody in and fix it, or you're going to get knocked on it like every single time. Unless your health inspector just I'm not saying they do that, but there are places that got completely shut down until it was corrected. So just keep that in mind. Lighting. You want the lighting to be brilliant. You want lighting to be well-lit areas. This is prevent, a lot of times bugs will get into lower lit areas, you might notice. So you want them to be well lit, constantly lit. You also want to have coverings over everything. It's actually a requirement. Because on the off chance that, a mop handle hits a light bulb, or there's some kind of freak accident and something breaks, you want a cover to catch all that glass. Because if that gets, if you're noticing, when you're working on, and you're on the hotline, and up above the flat top, there are those kind of screw-on things that cover the light bulb. If it's missing any of those, you're going to get marked off on your health inspection. So make sure to buy new ones. It's better to just do preventative stuff. it's probably, I've never had a light bulb just instantly shatter and get everywhere, but it's good to just prevent that kind of stuff. And, you know, you don't want to get marked off anyway. All right, now we're going to touch on garbage removal a little bit. Obviously, you want to remove garbage from any kind of prep areas or kitchen as quickly as possible. Make sure that you have on your cleaning list to regularly wash and clean all of the trash cans out. Whether that's you take them out back with a power washer or, you know, a hose or something. Usually we had a hose in the back and we just take them out, spray them down, scrub them down really quick. And as long as you're doing it regularly, it keeps you from having to like get a scraper and like scrape all that old paper and crap from like when trash cans or like trash bags bust and stuff like that. It makes everything like easier. So yeah, put that on for maybe like a once a week thing. Have it rotate in and out. Like, you know, one week Bob does it, one day Susan does it, one day Gary does it, etc., etc. You want to have designated outdoor areas where you can put the trash, and you want to make sure that the dumpster lids are always closed. One thing that's good to do is you buy like one of those metal snow shovels, like the big ones, and keep that handy because it doesn't happen a lot, but there are times where you go to lift that trash bag, the entire bottom just whoosh. And if you've got like a way to kind of scoop that up, it'll make things a lot easier. You're going to want some type of like push broom or shovel or something. Not in the test, but again, I mean, that's what these videos are for, is to be helpful. Help you pass your test and also give you some bonus tips. Otherwise, general maintenance is appropriate. You know, things that seem kind of obvious, but maybe not everybody's doing. You know, things like making sure the building is sound, making sure the systems work, cleaning the area, maintaining the outside of the building, controlling pests, that kind of stuff. There are some emergencies that can affect the restaurant. These are temperature controls, physical security, and drinkable water supply. So that gets kind of back into the back siphonage thing. And what I'm talking about are things like power failures, gas leaks. When it comes to pest prevention, it's pretty easy. It's what you might think. You want to deny them food, water, and shelter, and you want to deny them access. So you can do that by setting up traps, making sure you clean regularly, those gaps to keep, you know, food from being directly on the floor where bugs can easily get into them, throwing out garbage quickly, like I mentioned before. You could have pest control come in and do an inspection and check, you know, areas where there might be damage where pests can get in, or maybe indication of maybe something, some creepy crawlies that are leaving trace amounts of something that you'll be able to see. Something else you can do to deny the pest access is to make sure that you put up fly fans. You know, those big I call them air curtains. And, you know, they're in major entryways to into and out of the building. Obviously not where the customers come in, but like back where the kitchen is. And it helps kind of blow away the flying guys. So that's chapter 9. The last one is cleaning and sanitizing. So I'm going to go over things like this is chapter 10. This is the last chapter. You're done. You're done after this. You're done. That's it. Cleaning and sanitizing. So I'm going to talk about different sanitizers and a bunch of other stuff. So first off, what's the difference between cleaning and sanitizing? Sounds like an easy question, but cleaning is removing physical debris. Sanitizing is reducing pathogens. All cleaners must be stable, uncorrosive, and safe to use. You also want to make sure you have PPE available, gloves, goggles, mask, that kind of thing. Some things you might have in the restaurant are things like detergents, degreasers, delimers, and abrasive cleaners. Abraxo, for example, is an abrasive cleaner. It's similar to Comet. There are dishwashers that actually sanitize the dishes. They have chemical sanitizers, usually a quat sanitizer, but you can also sanitize with heat. The water's got to be 171 degrees. I've seen this on the test. 171 degrees Fahrenheit to sanitize with hot water. Now, as far as sanitizers go, there's actually 3 types of sanitizers. And again, this was on the test. I actually got one of these sanitizer questions wrong. I can't remember which one it was. But the 3 types of sanitizer are chlorine, iodine, quaternary ammonium, or quat. When they say quat sanitizer, that's what they're quaternary ammonium. So a few things to remember with sanitizer. You want to test it regularly every time you fill up a sink. And you also want to make sure that the correct temperature is used. Because if the sanitizer is too hot, the sanitizer isn't going to be as effective. You know, I know ironically because temperatures of the dishwasher have to be 171, But that's just, I'm not an expert on that. I just know that that's how it is. Water hardness can affect how well sanitizers work, and also you want to make sure sanitizer is in contact with the dishes for at least 30 seconds for it to be effective. One other thing that not a lot of people talk about or think about is the pH of the water. So if you can test your pH, or if you know a way to get it tested, do that, because that's also going to affect concentration. If you're at a place that has like an Ecolab or something like that, if you use one of those, usually they're really good about it, and you can, like, especially if you're like, hey, the sanitizer isn't being effective, they can come in and adjust it, or usually they're pretty good about it. They'll just come in and they'll just do it. So with chlorine, the water temperature can be between 75 to 100 degrees. Iodine, it's 68. Quartz, it's 75. pH for chlorine can be between 8 and 10. Iodine, less than 5. And you want to look at the manufacturer's recommendations for quartz. Water hardness, 500 parts per million for quartz, but generally with all three of these, it's going to be manufacturer's recommendation. Sanitizer concentration, 50 to 99 parts per million for chlorine, 12.5 to 25 parts per million for iodine, manufacturer's recommendation for quartz. Sanitizer contact time, for chlorine it's 7 seconds, for iodine it's 30 seconds, and for quartz it's 30 seconds. Most of this did not show up on the test, however, water temperature did show up on the test. So go back and rewatch the part, at least with the water temp. So there are steps, there are actual written out steps on how to properly clean things. It's exactly what you think it might be. Scrape and remove food debris first, wash it, rinse it, sanitize it, and then let it dry. So when do you actually clean and sanitize things? Well, the easy answer is after they're used, right? Kind of sounded like Beetlejuice there for a second. Anytime you're switching tasks, anytime that you are switching types of food, so obviously one obvious one would be from cutting chicken to leafy greens. Another one might be something less obvious, like watermelons to lettuce. Anytime you leave the area or there's an interruption in your task. If you're using it constantly and you're there the whole, like if you're prepping for like 6 hours, 4 hours into that prep, you got to stop and clean everything. Even if it's like raw meat and stuff like that, the bacteria can start growing on the cutting board and whatever. Also, make sure that you're not grabbing like all of the meat. If you have to do something, if you have to cut like 200 pounds of steaks, I know it's a lot, but cutting 200 pounds of steaks and it's going to take you, you shouldn't have so much product out that you never have to go in the 6 hours that you're prepping to go back in the walk-in. Just grab a case at a time or grab like 3 or 4. I know it's more trips, but it's going to make things a lot safer for the guests, and it's just going to be better all around. Cleaning and sanitizing stationary equipment. One thing that I tell people all the time is make sure the equipment is unplugged. You may have cleaned the slicer for years, leaving it plugged in with no accidents and nothing, but there's always that one time. It only takes one time for you to lose a finger for the thing to go off and for it to be like a disaster. So just make sure it's unplugged, make sure everything is safe before you start cleaning, please. You want to remove any removable parts. So that could be the grease trap for the slicer. It could be the plate that holds the guard for the blade, maybe the blade itself, for example. And then the steps that I had said before, scraping, washing, all of that, do it in that order. Final sanitizing and rinse for dishwashing machines should be at least 180 degrees. For stationary rack single temperature machines, it should be 165. If you're running a low temp and you use chemicals, you're just going to have to follow the manufacturer's instructions, and maybe Ecolab can help you out. Obviously, scrape and spray before putting it in the dish machine, and also make sure you can, do regular maintenance on it. So a couple of minor points on the dishwasher. First, never overload the racks. And second, it may be common practice to do this, but it's actually something you're not supposed to do, and that is use a towel to dry the dishes. Just let them air dry, put them away. Now with triple sinks, you want to fill them up correctly. You're going to have soap, then rinse water, then sanitize. You are allowed to have the middle sink empty, especially if you don't have a station like a separate spray station. You can have that empty and you can spray dishes off in there, but you have to wash and then spray the dishes manually and then put them in the sanitizer. That's actually the setup we have at work. For soap, for the detergent side, you want the water to be 110 degrees. When you fill the last sink with sanitizer, follow the manufacturer's instructions for sanitizer. I talked about the chart before. Also, put up a clock somewhere, and then they can look at the second hand. They know how long the sanitizer is. Well, they will know how long the dishes have been in the sanitizer. One minor mistake I see people make sometimes: do not rinse the items after they were in the sanitizer. The sanitizer is the last step. You just want to make sure they're completely dry. Just like I was talking about earlier, tableware, utensils, all that kind of stuff, to make sure they're 6 inches off the floor. Always store glassware and things that have opening where there's going to be food contact in those items. Make sure that is always stored upside down, and make sure that you're taking care of the trays and carts and wiping them down as you need. Now, a little bit about cleaning and sanitizing and the operation itself. If you have wiping cloths and they're designed to clean up messes and spills and food and stuff like that, do not use them for anything else. You also don't want to leave them out on a contact surface. Make sure they stay in the sanitizer bucket. A really easy way to get dinged by the health inspector is to have your cloth out and sitting on the cutting board. Use a clean, dry cloth to wipe the rim of the plates. Now, you want to clean all the areas, like I said before, but any non-food contact surface, you don't have to sanitize. Now, I got to talk about something gross. It's important, though. Diarrhea and vomit. It happens. Whether you are working at a place where drunk people come in and they puke on the table and they puke all over their food and everything, or they have diarrhea in the bathroom, maybe they had a sick kid, something like that. Make sure that you have a proper plan and procedure for cleaning it up. I've even gone so far as if they puke on the table and they puke on the dishes and stuff, everything gets thrown out. I don't wash it. I don't want to have puke going into my dish machine. I would rather just throw it away and take the L, right? Make sure that stuff is thoroughly cleaned. Hopefully you never have to deal with that, but it can happen. If you have mops, make sure you're filling them up with a hose or a specific mop sink. Do not ever clean, rinse mops or dump mop water in any area that's designed for any type of food. Like even like the triple sink, you don't want to dump like the mop water in the center sink. Like that's disgusting. Just don't do it. One thing that you can do as a manager is develop a cleaning program. For example, one thing that we do where I work is every day of the week is a different person to clean the walk-in. I take Mondays, then somebody else takes Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, etc., etc., etc. Come up with a cleaning list. What should be cleaned, how often it should be cleaned, who should clean it. If you want to rotate it, that's fine. If somebody wants to dedicate to always cleaning the same thing, they like it, let them do it. That kind of thing. Also, as a manager, never assume somebody knows how to clean something correctly. We get a lot of people that have never had experience with some of this stuff before, brand new cooks or kids right out of high school, or maybe sometimes kids that are in high school, and they don't have that knowledge base yet. And so in a non-condescending way, show them how to clean everything. Show them how to take it apart, give them your standards, then you can hold them accountable for those standards once they're trained. All right. We are finally done with this. It has been a long time. Now, if you're new to this and you're watching this, you have the benefit of being able to watch the whole ServSafe playlist all the way through from beginning to end with no issues. I just wanted to say thank you so much for sticking around for the whole thing. I appreciate it. I would encourage you to watch some of my other content, the Restaurants Basics playlist and a couple other things, and more stuff on the way. So I hope that you pass your ServSafe, and I hope you get 100 on it. If you do get 100 on it, I want to hear about it, and I'll even talk about it in another video. So I wish you the best of luck. I hope everything goes well. You guys are awesome. If this is the first video you're watching, if you start back at 1, I cover every single thing from the ServSafe playlist. I cover every single thing that is in 7th edition. Now, what I'm going to do moving forward is I'm probably going to have the updates, like if there's an 8th edition, instead of doing the whole thing, because a lot of the information is going to be the same, what I'm more than likely going to do is just post the changes as one video and just lump every change that was made in 8th edition. But yeah, I hope you guys have an awesome day, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.